M-Drive might actually be possible, traveling to Mars in 10 weeks or less. M-Drive speculation has run wild over the last few months, with the increasing likelihood that a functioning M-Drive might actually be possible. The publication of a peer-reviewed paper on the subject by NASA scientists has been the focus of heated debate by other scientists around the world, with many insisting it couldn't possibly work. But assuming that it does work, just what would a working NASA M-Drive mean for the future of space exploration and humanity? As reported by Science Alert, the M-Drive is a highly controversial device invented more than a decade ago in the UK and currently being studied by space agencies in the United States, China and elsewhere. The controversial aspect of the M-Drive is that it produces thrust without using any propellant. This aspect of the M-Drive, that seemingly violates the Newtonian physics requiring equal and opposite reactions, is difficult for scientists to accept. Even so, the experimenters working on the project have carried out rigorous testing of their experimental setup, and have produced a small but consistent thrust. What can we do with the M-Drive? As noted by the Washington Post, even though the EagleWorks team at NASA under Harold Sonny White has published a peer-reviewed paper describing the details and results of their experiment regarding the M-Drive, the team doesn't have a definitive answer for how the M-Drive produces thrust. Concepts related to quantum vacuum fluctuations and pilot wave theory have been put forward by some. On paper, the amount of thrust produced by the M-Drive would be sufficient to accelerate a manned spacecraft from Earth orbit to Mars in 10 weeks or less. This is a fraction of the time it would take for conventional, chemically powered rockets to take human beings to the Red Planet. Even at the current level of thrust being produced by the M-Drive, it's conceivable that an unmanned craft could be accelerated from our solar system and reach Alpha Centauri in less than 100 years. Currently, such a trip would take many thousands of years. Assuming that the propulsive effect of the M-Drive could be ramped up once the physical mechanism underlying it is better understood, it might finally be possible to think about manned missions to other star systems. While these trips would take years, they would still be a fraction of the millennia it would take using conventional rockets. It's important to remember that the early exploratory sailing trips around the Earth also took years. Social implications of the M-Drive. Assuming that the speculation by Harold White about the potential performance of such a drive is accurate, the M-Drive would simultaneously make the universe smaller and larger. It would be smaller, because we would actually be able to travel to other planets that are almost out of our reach now. Even Neptune would be only 18 months away. But it would also be larger, because the possibilities for human growth would expand exponentially. Suddenly, the world that human beings had access to would have limitless horizons and mysteries. Like the early explorers of 5 centuries ago, humanity would suddenly have the opportunity for exploration and adventure across the solar system, and perhaps beyond. As trivial as it might sound to talk about adventure, the simple fact is that the Earth has become so small that the opportunities for true exploration and adventure are extremely lacking. People desperately climb to the top of Mount Everest or travel to the ocean depths in the hope of finding the kind of adventure our ancestors knew as they explored a new world. But it's not quite the same. The M-Drive could be the solution to this problem. Of course, it's impossible to ignore the terrible tragedies that grew out of such exploratory voyages. The growth of the African slave trade and the genocidal destruction of Native Americans are directly linked to such exploration. But at the same time, the spirit of adventure and exploration that imbued the voyages of early explorers, not to mention the desire for profit, was one of the underpinnings of the later Renaissance and Age of Enlightenment. During the Enlightenment, one of the fundamental motivations behind the growth of scientific inquiry was the desire to classify and understand all of the new animals, plants and minerals then being discovered around the world and brought back to centers of knowledge and learning like London. Vague maps that frequently showed only here the bee dragons were being quickly filled in with facts. It's impossible to even imagine the things that exploratory ships powered by M-drives traveling to other planets in our solar system, or to Alpha Centauri or other star systems, might discover, but it's safe to assume it will be astonishing.